Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen Scarlet, Pimp Sunkiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, with a cast tea party read. That's what I'm gonna be calling all these reads now from going forward. They're gonna be called tea party reads, inspired by Kenya's tea party. But all of them, even outside of Real Housewives, any cast read that I do will be named the tea party reads. That's gonna be the name of this particular segment. Anywho, I'm here for Miss Kandi Burruss Tucker and her individual read. We're gonna cover the best of her, the worst of her, how everybody synchronized with her, whether they like her or not, and a little bit of some more shit. Let's see what come through. And without further ado, we're gonna get into. Also, my bad, because I hate when people do this too, but let me specify. The sound quality is going to go back and forth in this video probably because I'm recording this on different days at different times as I can because it's a lot I'm trying to get through. So there are times when I'm able to use my mic and times where I'm not able to use my mic because I'm not able to get access to it, whatever, what have you. So just bear with me. Thank you. Alright, we starting off with Kandi on a mind, body, and soul level. I asked, show me the best of her on a mind, body, and soul level. So we're going to start off with the Ace of Wands that she has over there to the left. We see the colors blue, a little bit of orange, some pink, purple, and white. And what this is telling me is that Kandi is effortlessly etheric. She has effortless ties to the etheric divine realm and her etheric chakras. It's given that pretty much she was born with those type of connections, and throughout her reading I found a lot of strong ancestral presence, and definitely giving that many of her ancestors as well as herself and members of her family in their past lives, they did a lot of generational curse breaking. They built up a lot of good karma for themselves that they are still being blessed and repaid for in this life period. And also, needless to say, Kandi is the Ace of Wands, and she also has a son named Ace. That is not a coincidence. Whether she did that mindfully or mindlessly, that is not a coincidence that her son's name is Ace. Also, paying attention to what I said about her and her family having great karma repaid to them for things they did in past lives in this life, right? So a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Kandi being super business oriented and, you know, all of the accomplishments that she's had and how she overflows her cup into the cups of her family. Well, that is divine design. That is not a mistake. Now, while there can be boundaries, and there needs to be boundaries, we'll get into that soon, it is by divine design and divine guidance that Kandi gives back to her family, and that Kandi gives back in general, because it was meant for her to be a well that never runs dry. And in her elaboration cards that I pulled, they're not showing in this photo, but I pulled some elaboration cards for this, and she also has the Ace of Cups, which ties exactly into what I was just saying. She is meant to be a well that never runs dry. She's meant to be a very large cup that never finishes overflowing into the cups of others, which is also why there are boundaries and things that need to work on being set. But before we get into that, I want to talk about that hand there with the red nails that's holding the wand. I want to talk about the color of that hand and the elaboration card that came out in reference to that particular element. So the card that came out in reference to that particular element is the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. And what that is telling me, this is also shown up throughout other cards that you're going to see in the reading, but more ancestral reparations from both past life dimensions and also the past. So me using the term reparations was not a mistake, because that's exactly what it's getting into. I don't know if this is already in the works for her, okay, and everything is alleged for protection purposes and everything, but this is what's coming up in the cards, my intuition and her spirit, all that. So there is some type of land or estate or business type thing, some type of lucrative material and area and environment that was stolen from Kandi's ancestors, stolen from her great grandparents, is given during the time of slavery and things of that nature, and forms of slavery and oppression from other past lives that her and her family have experienced and lived through, right? So something is going to happen, something is going to come up. I don't know if she's going to get some type of inclination to do her DNA ancestry or something, or if just going through documentation, through cleaning out an old home and finding some type of paperwork that leads to, you know, her calling a lawyer and figuring out what's happening with the happening of it all. But she will end up finding that that land is rightfully hers, or rightfully her family's, and she will be redeemed with that land or that property, that environment, whatever it is. And it's also a form of breaking a massive generational curse that has been in her family bloodline. You may hear me kind of stutter a little bit throughout her reading, and it's because her ancestors are very active right now, and her spirit guides are very active right now, because there are a lot of things that Kandi turns a blind eye to. There are a lot of things that Kandi suppresses, and a lot of those things are things that her ancestors and her spirit guides are trying to bring to her attention right now. So as I'm speaking and going through these cards, they are like endlessly nudging me, tapping me on my shoulder, trying to give me more downloads and messages in the process and things of that nature. So bear with me. And with that being said, let's talk about that Hanged Woman card, because that's kind of what that's touching on, but more so in, you know, the best of her, the way that it works for her in good ways. So we have the Hanged Woman, and we have this woman swinging from some ropes from the ceiling. It looks as though she is doing some flying yoga, okay? And it can also resemble a sex harness, if you will. We know that Kandi is a very sexual and sensual person. She loves those types of discussions and activities and conversations. So that's also what that is getting into. And it's also tying into her kind of effortlessly knowing how to choose her battles, being effortlessly non-confrontational. That is also a divine design of hers. It's something that kind of gets on our nerves from time to time, but that is a part of her divine design. She is not meant to be confrontational in the way that we expect her or want her to be confrontational, okay? So this is also talking about her coping mechanisms and her coping skills. Her using yoga, flying yoga in particular, more than likely, to balance out her emotions and rejuvenate and also enhance, you know, her sexual activity and the sensation of sex and things of that nature. This is also about her sacral chakra, not just as it concerns sex, but it helps her open her mind up to more things that she enjoys doing, more things that make her feel good, more things that make her feel happy. And so a part of that non-confrontational aspect is her being able to pick up on things that aren't making her happy, being able to effortlessly pick up on things that aren't making her feel good. And it lets her know that she needs to leave the situation. She needs to find something else to do. She needs to direct her attention elsewhere, as well as her energy for that matter. So that's what that is about. And we get into the blueness of this card as well. And I'm going to also tie it in with the blue on the Ace of Wands card. So of course, blue represents the throat chakra, which represents music, as well as the sacral chakra can also represent music and creativity. You also see I have this big carnelian stone sitting right here, and all of that represents her creative craft, as well as how she uses it as a self-soother, as a coping mechanism. She also uses it to get closer to her own identity and to focus more on her own truth. So a part of that non-confrontational element of her is her being able to separate herself from other people's thoughts and opinions, and being able to redirect herself back to her own thoughts, back to her own identity, back to her own opinions, back to her own sense of self. And a major way that she does that is through art, writing, music, and also the usage of her body. We don't see her dance much, but it seems like she's about to get into dance more, or doing something more with her body. I see her being in some type of musical, or taking some dance classes, or maybe getting a role that involves her dancing. And that's also going to help her heal a lot. Like, that's going to help her heal on a energetic and chakra level. I'm getting that there is a lot of tension and trauma residue in her hips, and her legs and hips, and but specifically in her legs and hips, and maybe her feet. There is a lot of trauma and tension residue there that's been stored there in her root and sacral chakra, and here and there it starts to affect her solar plexus chakra. And so throughout the dance and different physical activities that she will be doing, she's going to be experiencing a lot of purging in those areas and a lot of healing in that way, which is also going to wake her up to more truths that she has been ultimately hiding from herself. And when that happens, we're going to see her looking different. We're going to see her dressing different, looking different, doing her hair differently, wearing a plethora of different colors and cuts and designs and designers. We're going to see her in a lot of different places, trying out a lot of new things. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, what is this? Okay, I'm going to be looking at her a little crazy, but that is all divine design. And we're all going to see the method to the madness once, you know what I'm saying, it's all ready. But at the same time, it's not about us, you know, it's not about our thoughts and opinions. Kandi is a embodiment and a personification of uniqueness, and how you can be successful being a jack of all trades. Kandi is a personification of not being confined to one box. And so even though she's already done a lot of things to show that, once she gets through this particular cycle that she's in, and there's another one that'll be coming after that, but you know, I'm not gonna get too deep in that. But once she gets through this particular cycle that I just spoke on and that I'm speaking on right now, that is going to lift her up on a whole nother level type shit. Like, what it's showing me is that she is going to be a major role, if not the entire creation, her own masterpiece. And I'm seeing that this will more than likely involve music, dance, acting, some type of musical. She might end up creating a musical, or she might end up opening a a school of theater, a school of performing arts in some type of way. That's the type of shit that I'm seeing for it. And like I said, that is going to exalt her up so high, but she's going to remain humble with it, and it's not going to be something that is difficult to access. It's going to be something that she makes accessible to, you know, pretty much everybody who is willing, you know. And I can't quite say what it is right now because she hasn't fulfilled this particular cycle. She hasn't made it through the other end just yet. But we are going to see Kandi doing some amazing things and shocking the entire hell out of everybody, including herself. So I said it once, twice, maybe 3 times. I'm gonna say it again because I want y'all to have this in mind. I want y'all to remember this for when it happens, child, for when she brings it into fruition, that Kandi is meant to be and is the personification of being a jack of all trades and being massively successful with it, and massively still humble and full of humility and willing to give to others and share with others and build up others and help others help themselves. And so last but not least, we have the card in the middle. It is a art piece by Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. I don't know if I said that right. I don't speak French. But I know some of the phonetics, so I said it the best I can. The name of this piece is At the Moulin Rouge. It is not the whole portrait on this card, okay? So keep that in mind. The whole portrait of this art piece does not show on this one card. So that is also symbolic of Kandi not being thoroughly through a cycle. Like, she's in the depths of a cycle right now and she has not completed it. So that's also what that card is reiterating to me and confirming and also elaborating on with that Hangs Woman card, where I just talked about, you know, we haven't seen the best of her yet. She hasn't seen the best of herself yet, you know. So that's what that's getting into. It is also letting me know that Kandi dances a lot in her sacral chakra. She loves her sacral chakra. She loves to have fun. She loves to have a good time. She doesn't like a whole lot of hoopla and carrying on. She loves to revel in her sacral chakra. Now, what this is also getting with that number 6 up there in the coloration of this card, it is bringing to the forefront of her having to acknowledge some triggers and trauma that she may be using her sacral chakra to distract herself from. Now, I know that this is the best of her, but this is showing up because she is in the midst of a cycle. And like I said, not just in the midst, she's in the depths of a cycle. And like I said, her ancestors and her spirit guides are very loud and on her ass right now. So that's why that's coming up in this particular part of the reading as well, because it's just a lot of things where she spent so much time reveling in her sacral chakra that her divine realm is like, okay, no. You can have fun, but we got to bring some shit to your attention at the same time. We got to have you reflect with that number 6 up there. Number 6 is the number of reflection. While you're having fun, I need you to reflect on certain things that have led you up to this moment. I need you to reflect on why this good time may have went a little sour over here. Instead of just distracting yourself from it and running from it, we need you to pay attention and acknowledge what's going on in front of you. Okay, because that's also a part of being in the moment. While being non-confrontational and just focusing on having a good time and staying in a positive mindset and all of that is a part of living in the moment, acknowledging the truth and acknowledging what needs to be done, what needs to be said, what boundaries need to be set in place, and acknowledging, you know, certain toxic shit that led up to these moments and uncomfortabilities. Those are things of living in the moment as well. Because while most of all of this is a part of her divine design, the frequency is warped because some of what she does in her divine design is a trauma response. It has laces of trauma responses in it. And so her divine realm and herself, her higher self, needs for her to clear that up, become aware of that, so that she can stop trauma responding. It's in the way of, like, if you put in a dark situation that, and this is what's coming up for Kandi, possibly, because I'm going to transition into the worst of her due to the, you know, because this is the last card, and also due to the fact that this is coming up, and I don't want to do too much of this in her, you know, best of her type shit, but because it's coming up, I gotta say it. So, and Kandi has talked about this, but I'm sure that there's also more that she hasn't talked about. A traumatic experience that she had in her childhood probably made her consider a side, okay? And made her question her worth, made her question her sense of self, her self-esteem, her sense of identity, and all of that, okay? Remember me saying certain things like that, but in a different way. So that traumatic experience, those traumatic experiences, her response to it was, ooh, these dark emotions, this trauma, I gotta do something about it, I gotta heal, because if I don't, I could turn into this terrible person, I could end up harming myself, I could end up harming other people, because hurt people hurt people. It made those types of thoughts and feelings go through her, because at heart, she really is a good person, and she really is a sweet person. So when dark things come to mind like that, she wants to hurry up and clear that out and heal it and move on to the next thing, so that she can be great. She doesn't want to let that hold her back, and she has an understanding that if she's not good, she can't be good for nobody. And so that's great, right? That's how she should be. But the trauma response is how fast she tries to make herself get over things, and how fast she tries to make herself heal. And a lot of her coping mechanisms started off as a fake it till you make it type thing. And now the divine realm is trying to get her in the mindset of, hey, you made it. You made it. You don't have to fake it no more. We need you to reflect on everything that happened. We need you to see how you've been kind of functioning in a imposter syndrome in a way. You know how everybody be like, Kandi, you got all the money in the world. What more money is you trying to get? That's a part of that trauma response also. Yes, it's in her divine design to be the Ace of Wands and accomplish a lot and make a whole lot of money, to be able to spread, you know, amongst everybody. But at the same time, she needs to be coming from a healed place and not a wounded place of a lack mentality. You see what I'm saying? So it's those types of things where in the depths of this cycle, the divine realm is trying to get her to see, hey, look at where you at. Which is also possibly why, and I'm not saying that this is her fault, Marlo is a grown-ass woman that makes her own decisions, but energetically we attract what we are. And so that's why she's attracting Marlo and attracting a certain energy out of Marlo, because Marlo is also having that same issue of not realizing how far she's come, not acknowledging and fully functioning in how far she's come and everything that she's made for herself. So therefore she keeps having these trauma responses and doing these things as if she's still broke, working like she's still broke, you know, thinking like she's still broke. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and transition out of this particular layout. This has been the best of Kandi, and we are going to transition into her shadow self cards, basically the quote unquote worst of her. But this is essentially going to get into her shadow self on a divine level. Yes, a divine level. Shadow self. Let's get it. Alright, so here we have Kandi's shadow self, aka the worst in her on a mind, body, and soul level. So, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. So, first things first, it's piggybacking off of what just came up in at the tail end of the previous layout about a traumatic experience or certain traumatic experiences. So Kandi experienced a lot of trauma in childhood that went unchecked, unprotected, unaddressed, and it also set up a pattern or mindset of Kandi allowing things to happen to her. And what I mean by that is the suppression, the bowing out of situations, the just like the non-confrontational element being also a trauma response. So because things happened to her and adults around her didn't do anything about it, she kind of lacks a sense of protecting herself, if you will. So her method of protecting herself is to isolate herself, throw herself into work, throw herself into yoga, throw herself into these other things, which, like I said, is good, but because it's coming from a trauma responsive manner, and it's also lacking boundaries and lacking in her holding people accountable, getting into that male female card over there, okay? So she is unbalanced in her male and female energy. So she kind of uses her feminine energy in unhealthy ways and uses her masculine energy in some unhealthy ways. So like I said, where she should use her masculine energy to stand up for herself and set boundaries, she instead uses her masculine energy to throw herself into work, to make money, to suppress emotions and things of that nature. So all at the same time, where she could use her feminine energy to speak up for herself, to say what she needs to say to people in certain situations, to express her feelings, she instead uses her female energy in sex or through sex things, or she uses her feminine energy in yoga and in music and in things of that nature, which is good, but there needs to be a balance on a social level, and that's where she's fallen off. She lacks those empowering and those powerful elements on a social level. She excels in business, excels in creativity, and for the most part she can excel in relationships, like romantic relationships, to an extent, and we're going to talk about that later, okay? But right now, let's turn back to this 10 of Swords card. So that is also, that's talking about what I just said about, you know, her family not protecting her in the way that they need to, and so now she has a warped perspective of what it is to protect herself, right? This is also the suppression thing, letting things build up, turning a blind eye to things, seeing that people are snakes, and then she still kind of puts herself around them because she's just like, I got me, and da da da. But at the same time, it's like, no, you need to remove yourself from certain people. You need to completely cut certain people off because their energy is tainting yours. And it seems as though the more and more sharks that Kandi notices in the water, the more she checks out and does that suppressive, turn a blind eye thing. And that's where it leads to that it's dark and you can't see a fucking thing card. The reason why it's dark and she can't see a fucking thing is because she's blinding herself, because it's so much triggering stuff, and it's just so much stuff popping up. I want to say so much things like Cardi B. But it's so much things popping up that she don't want to deal with, and she don't want to handle, she don't want to be involved in, that she's creating a darkness for herself. She's blinding herself in order to keep from dealing with it. But the depths of the cycle that she's in right now, she's having no choice but to deal with it. And so things are very up and down and up and down and up and down right now. So like, for instance, just a reference from the last episode we saw of Real Housewives of Atlanta, when she met up with Sheree and Marlo, and she had that like unraveling, like frustration breakdown type of thing. That's a part of it. And I had even said, before I even got into, you know, the whole reading of it all, like, I had put her cards, but I hadn't gone through and thoroughly evaluated or read on it until now that I'm doing the video, because I like for these things to be authentic. But we go back to that scene. That's pretty much what she was dealing with. Multiple times of Marlo and Sheree coming at her, and she just tried to turn the other cheek, turn a blind eye, be the bigger person, back away from it, act like it's not happening, just say okay and move forward. But those methods and tactics are no longer working. She has to use her voice to speak up for herself and say what she needs to say. And she finally did it in that scene, but it came out in kind of the form of like a breakdown or whatever, because she had suppressed it so long. And even in the video I said, Kandi, just tell them you don't fuck with them. Just tell them you not with that shit. Just tell them you don't like it. And that's essentially what her divine realm is trying to get her to do, and ignite in herself as well, for her to just say what she means and mean what she says. If somebody is doing something that you don't like, tell them right then. Don't wait until it's built up and boiled over to try to get your point across. Because also, like I said in the video, now you crying and stuff in front of people who really don't fuck with you. Now you're having to be consoled by people who really don't fuck with you and who you really don't fuck with. So this is coming from that thing, like that's still your family, that's still your mama, that's still your such and such. It's coming from that because a pattern has been set up in her family where she feels like it's disrespectful to hold certain people accountable or say certain things. And so that's also playing itself out in certain other relationships and interactions that she has with people, where subconsciously there's like a hold on top of everything else. Due to that as well, there's a hold on her, like on her tongue basically, that keeps her from addressing things straight on, because maybe she was, well, not even maybe, because it's shown up here, but it's shown up a lot in her cards that she's been silenced a lot when she's tried to speak up about things or tell the truth about things. And so it's a lot of people that she loves that has broken her heart, that has done a lot of detrimental and acts of betrayal towards her, but she doesn't feel like she has a right to really speak on it or really address it or really put them in their place the way that she needs to, and the way that they need to be put in their place, because she's been trained essentially to be a class act, which she is a class act, but people have pigeonholed her into that functionality to a point of enabling fucked up people and not protecting herself and not speaking up for herself. And so we're going to transition on over into the similarly colored card, meditate and contemplate, new moon in Pisces, which is given two two fish swimming in different directions. I don't know, she might have Pisces in her chart, but this is the functionality. It's a lot of things that she's been doing. Pretty much all of the things that I have mentioned, and then there's more. Many of those things have worked out for her, have made it where she's able to have everything that she has now. But in order to get more and to get different and more evolved things and a more evolved dimension of herself, she has to now do something different. She has to dead some of those habits, a lot of those habits that have gotten her accomplishments. She has to now dead them or just redirect them in order to get to more and get to a more evolved state. And in order to do that, she needs to meditate and contemplate in a real way, not just to self-soothe, but as a way of life. Like, for instance, what I mean by that is she needs to do it just to do it. Like, just to get in touch with herself, not to prepare for a role, not to prepare for a business meeting, not to calm her nerves from filming, not to settle down from, interacting and social and all of that. She needs to do it just to do it, so that she can really see herself and really get in touch with herself. And it's going to open up some answers for her that I am not able to get or receive through this reading, because they are specifically for her. So with that being said, I'm going to roll on over into the synchronicities, and these synchronicities will cover how we synchronize with her. You, anyone who comes across this video, anyone who chose, to see her video and not the others in particular, anybody who comes across this video, how are we synchronizing with her, whether we like her or not? This is why she stands out to you, why you are intrigued by her, why she gets on your nerves, all that good stuff. What are the synchronizations? Because if you have an understanding about anything, then you have an understanding that you attract what you are, and you are attracted to what you are in some way, form, or fashion. So it could bring up, some things that you and Kandi have in common, some differences, some things that you might can learn from her. Or also you may be dealing with a person or have dealt with a person like Kandi that you have been trying your hardest to understand and you just can't grasp it. Well, this next layout should be able to bring some clarity and connect some dots. So let's get into it. Alright, so here are the synchronicities. Let's start with the synergy in reverse, okay? So we know that that's not a coincidence, being the fact that I'm focused on the synchronicities and synergy is in reverse. So what that's talking about is the lack of organization in Kandi's life, and that is coming up to also be a trauma response, keeping things kind of all over the place and out of order because you're buzzing from one flower to the next, going from one thing to the next. So this is also like Kandi bouncing from one job to the next, bouncing from one project to the next, constantly not taking any time to stop and pause and just be and just see, and to get in touch with your emotions. And a part of this, the reason why it is a trauma response, is because it also ties into not wanting to address things or not feeling like you can address things. Because if you put everything in its order, if you set boundaries, then you will have to acknowledge that it's out of sort in the first place, right? Then you'll be going through these different things and seeing, oh, this is old, it needs to be thrown away. This is broken, it needs to be fixed. This isn't even mine, I need to give this back. You see what I'm saying? So it also gives that there are a lot of memories here that Kandi and us who are synchronizing with her, that we are unwilling to reevaluate. We don't want to look at it, we don't want to think about it, we don't want to acknowledge it, pay attention to it, so that we can clear it out. And you see the card right above that is drop the fucking ego. Okay, so for some, the synchronization with Kandi is because you feel like people take so much from you, you want to hoard your emotions because that's just a part of you that you're trying to keep to yourself. You want to keep it for yourself. But honestly, if you figure out how to balance and organize and process your emotions better and how to express your emotions better, then you won't have to give so much in a material or physical sense, because you'll be satisfying that in an energetic and emotional sense. Okay, so let's talk about how Kandi gives a lot monetarily. And I don't want to talk too much about her kids because I don't know nothing about the dynamic with her and her kids, but I do know that the child she has that's old enough to speak for herself has made mention of Kandi being freakishly busy and not really having time to be there, both physically, her actual presence, and emotionally and things of that nature. So you're giving a lot when it comes to money and material things and providing, which is that masculine energy being overactive, right? But you're hoarding emotionally, you're hoarding energetically, which is throwing things off balance, which is making the feminine energy underactive, okay? Which essentially will cause you to feel either drained or stuffed a lot of the time. Some of you may be having some issues with your appetite, not having an appetite, and it's because you're holding so much in that needs to be released. You need to release that in order for you to put anything back into yourself, right? So for others, this is getting into that part of Kandi that feels beyond reproach, that doesn't like to be checked, that doesn't like to be correct, that doesn't like to be told that she's doing anything wrong, because she's had this good standing, and I guess it's some type of traumatic experience, kind of like when somebody has been in a physically abusive relationship. They start to move in a way, even when they're outside of that relationship, they start to move in a way to avoid conflict, to avoid violence, essentially, because they've gotten so used to avoiding being hit and avoiding being chastised and all of that, that they keep that functionality. And that's a functionality that Kandi has also been in. I don't know if she's been in a physically abusive relationship. I only know about the sexual abuse that she's talked about experiencing, and from the cards and everything and the energy and everything and the messages that's come through, I can tell that there has been some emotional and spiritual abuse. So it can also work in that way, where she tries to avoid being chastised, she tries to avoid being fussed at, or told anything bad about herself, because she has prided herself on avoiding those types of situations for so long. She prided herself on finally being a good girl for so long. So when someone addresses something with her in that form, not only is it a cognitive dissonance that comes up, because she's so used to being complimented, she doesn't know how to hear criticism, but it also ties into certain things that she doesn't want to address. And one of those things is the speaking up for herself. She doesn't want to speak up for herself. She avoids that. So when somebody else is speaking up for themselves, that's a trigger. Not only that, but if they're telling her something that deep down she knows is true, then she really doesn't want to deal with it. It's something that she doesn't want to deal with. And also, and I'm not going to stay long on this, I kind of really don't want to say it, but I feel like it needs to be said. I feel like Spirit is nudging me to say it. But as it concerns the sexuality of it all, And I even question this myself, like, if you are so like comfortable in your sexuality and everything, why do you get so offended when somebody brings something up concerning, you being sexual and things of that nature, where a part of that is the sexual trauma. There is something connected to that sexual trauma that when somebody addresses the sex toys, or how she like implements sex in all these different ways, or talks about sex and things of that nature, when they address that with her, that's a trigger, because it's something surrounding that trauma that she knows she needs to address, but she doesn't want to address it. So it's just easier to get defensive about it. And definitely light, love, healing, and liberation to the mind, body, and soul of Kandi and her bloodline, as well as those of you who resonate with that synchronization on that level. Intense, extreme, drastic love, light, healing, liberation, and justice on all divine frequencies for you all, for us all. Odeya Biko Lebi. Hallelujah. That language I spoke was Hebrew. I said, thank you, God, with all my heart. Hallelujah. Okay. So we're going to continue on through the rest of this layout. And just to wrap up on that card for that synchronization, it's a trauma response that you all have been functioning in that is rooted in ego. So the way to get past that is to rebel against the trauma response habit. You need to address it, whether it be with a therapist, or in the form of meditation, or in the form of Reiki, or if you write a song or poetry about it, and then you discuss that song or poetry with someone who you trust. Those are some tips and ways that you can address those things, get it purged and healed and processed. Not saying that everything will be, perfect after that, because it's a lifestyle. It's, something that you have to keep doing until you get it right? Because it took a long time for those bad habits to be forced and trained into you. So it'll take some time for the good things to be habitualized as well. But those are some things that will help you to get over that hurdle. Now let's get into a bit of the lighter side of things in this synchronization layout. Okay, we have consciousness. So that means those of us that synchronize with Kandi, we are very intuitive, much like Kandi is. The thing about this is Kandi's intuition has been stunted. She's been taught not to act on it. So she listens to her intuition. She's in touch with her intuition, but she's been taught not to act on it. Therefore, those parts where it comes to acting on your intuition, both on the masculine and feminine side, as it concerns actively putting people in their place and not fooling with people and things of that nature, and also the verbal side of speaking up for yourself, calling a thing, saying what needs to be said. Those types of things have been kind of silenced and stumped out of her, if you will, which is trying to be reignited. And that's a synchronization that I'm picking up on here. So like I said, take what resonates, how it resonates. And another side of this is the need to listen to your intuition on a bodily level. Legs and hips and body, addy. Anywho, so there are certain signs and signals that are coming through your body, whether it be through aches and pains, or you experiencing a pop, like let's say you move a certain way, like you make the slightest movement, like you getting up from your chair and you feel something pop somewhere. That's an intuitive message coming through for you. You need to think about where that pop happened, and if it happened because of the colors that I'm picking up here, if it happens somewhere in your neck or your side, your back, your upper back specifically, there's something going on in the heart chakra. There's something that your heart chakra has to say to you. And a part of what that is how you have started to self-harm on a emotional level. And what that means is when you are not acting or respecting your intuition, that is a form of self-harm, because your emotions and your intuitions are meant to help you navigate through things in order for you to know what you need to access, what doors you need to close, and how to protect yourself and when you need protection. And if you're not functioning in that, like I said, then you're not respecting it, and therefore you're not respecting yourself. Therefore you are self-harming. So you know how a lot of people can tend to glorify, oh, I see a lot and I hear everything, I just don't say nothing. Yeah, no, that's not smart. That's not smart. There's a time and a place for everything, but it's not smart, it's not healthy, it's not something to be glorified or to be priding yourself on, that you have a strong intuition and you're not using it. But once we start to get a hold of that, and we're doing the things that we need to do in the depths of this cycle in order to break those bad habits and clear out that bad energy and start to like really function and constantly seeking our higher self, we can get into The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh with the number 4. And this is one of Vincent van Gogh's most famous pieces, one of his most famous masterpieces, okay? So you will start to see how much you are a masterpiece. And that goes back into what I was saying about when Kandi gets through this cycle, because she will get through this cycle. And I'm speaking into in existence for us, for everybody that comes across this video and synchronizes and all of this with this here. Speaking into existence for us, we will get through all of the cycles that we need to get through so that we can really start to see how much of masterpieces we truly are, so that we can then create our own masterpieces. So yes, a synchronization that I'm picking up on is many of us who are synchronizing with Kandi, we also are destined to create our own masterpieces that will create a multitude of opportunities and wealth and growth access for others, not just ourselves, but for others, and start to get so much recognition and reparations that we have felt so deprived of for so long. Once we get through these cycles and drop that fucking ego and start to respect our consciousness and get things synchronized and organized and things of that nature, and stop being afraid of ourselves, we will have full access and really start to create our masterpieces. And it's going to be something different and in a different style for every single person. So I can't go through exactly like every single vision that I'm getting with this. But like I said, some people will be opening up schools. Some people will be starting organizations to help people. Some people will be making movies, writing songs, making music. Some people will be starting whole production companies. You know how they say when someone doesn't give you a seat at their table, you build your own table? That's what this is given. This is a synchronized group of people who will be building their own table, okay? And it will be a divine reflection of everything that you have worked so hard to build within yourself, and then some. Ciao. I hope that resonated, honey, with everybody that it needed to resonate with. Before I tap out of this, I just want to leave a few more tips and things that can help to bring individual clarity, individual healing, and individual evolution. So let's talk about the presence of red here, the presence of yellow, the presence of orange. I've talked about the other colors so far, so I'm going to give some attention to these real quick. So there is some root, sacral, and solar plexus chakra things going on, which I did mention earlier in the video, but on an individualistic sense. Some of you need to start drawing more. Some of you have been downplaying your drawing abilities. Maybe you did it more when you were younger, and because it's been so long, you doubt yourself on what you can do now, but you need to crash past that doubt and just do it. Many of you need to go outside and walk barefoot, do some type of grounding activities. You need to do your yoga outside. You need to sun gaze. You need to eat red fruits and vegetables. You need to get in touch with a nutritionist to help get your personalized diet in order. Some of you need to do some DNA ancestry testing. Also, child, because there may be a kid or something that you have responsibility for that really may not be your responsibility. Not saying that you need to withdraw completely from that kid, but it's just certain levels of guilt maybe that you're holding on to that are really not your guilt to have. Take that how you may. Many of you need to do some yoni steams, need to do some yoni cleansing and purging, need to get some teas that will cleanse out your feminine reproductive system and your feminine sexual organs and things of that nature. And many of you need to let some people feel on you. What I mean by that is let somebody do, and make sure you do your research now so that you get somebody that really knows what they're doing and will help you and not harm you in the process because of some mindless shit that they got going on. But many of you need to let somebody do a Reiki healing on you. Many of you need to allow somebody to do a full body massage on you, deep tissue, with specific focuses on your lower back, your mid back, and your upper back, and around your neck and shoulders. Major emphasis in those areas. For some of you, it's major emphasis in the areas of your feet. Some of you need to seek a chiropractor and get your body adjusted, and this will also help you form a regimen of yoga, Pilates, or some other physical activity to help you heal and purge a lot of that traumatic residue and things of that nature that have been resonating itself in your body and in your energy ports, your chakras and things of that nature that have been like mindlessly and subconsciously holding you back. Or maybe it's on the surface and you just been stuck in the habit for so long that you no longer notice it. I'm trying to see if I pick up on anything else before go into the next and final layout. What I will say is, yes, some people need to do vocal exercises, get some vocal training, and also This is where a nutritionist can come in handy, and this is also where a certified vocal coach can come in handy, because there are a lot of throat chakra blockages that are also being caused by heart chakra blockages. So if we can get some eucalyptus teas, some green teas, some THC and CBD teas, and also some vocal exercises going on, and you actually working with some certified people that specializes in those things, that would also help to clear out a whole lot of blockages and traumatic residue, so that we can start functioning at our fullest potential. Okay, yeah, ma'am. So I hope all of this resonated. I hope it all synchronized accordingly, and that you're able to use it to the best of your ability. And we are going to head on over into the next and final layout, where we're gonna be talking about Kandi and Todd. That's the little, you know what I'm saying, little bonus reading that I decided to do for Kandi, based on Kandi and Todd. But there's also another bonus that I did for Kandi and Todd that is already posted, which is the original Tea Party read. You should head over. Well, it's not for Kandi and Todd, it's really just for Kandi. But you can head on over there and see that video as well. Anywho, let's get on down into. Alright, for the bonus question, I decided to ask, what is Kandi and Todd's truth of their soul contract? What is their divine purpose as a couple, child? What is their divine purpose as a union of any sort? Not just husband and wife, but as two spiritual beings that have come together in this life. And this is what we got here. Let's start with the world. And we're going to do the world card and the Five of Pentacles card together, because they are synchronized with each other, okay? So let's look at the Five of Pentacles kind of sort of first. You see they're similarly colorized, right? So that's Kandi in the Five of Pentacles there. That girl that's sitting outside that building or whatever. That's Kandi. That's how it is depicting that she's felt for a lot of her life, being an outsider, being weird, being the black sheep, being ostracized from the rest of the world and things of that nature. There is also something going on here concerning church. And if you remember me saying something about spiritual abuse a little bit, like a few minutes ago in this video, that's what is again coming up here. There's something about being ostracized from a church. That's interesting. Oh, and then also, child, I didn't even pay no attention to that. Spirituality and religion. The spirituality and religion card is right there as well. I did not even pay attention to that. I was just picking up on what I was picking up on, child. But yeah, so we tied this with that world card over there. A major part of Kandi and Todd's soul contract is accompanying Kandi, them accompanying each other, as both of them have felt like it's been just them against the world. And when they come together, they no longer feel like it's their individual selves against the world, but it's them as a unit against the world. So ultimately, they are definitely meant to be in partnership one way or another, no matter what happens. It's meant for them to tackle this life, live through this life, have fun in this life, be happy in this life, find what happiness is to them in this life with each other, okay? So let's also talk about the orphan, spirituality and religion, and the wars and battles. Both of them have been through a plethora of wars and battles. And honestly, there are still a few more, some more for them to fight before they can really get to the comfortability of everything. And this has to do with like time period stuff and a whole lot of mindset stuff. Like I was saying, accomplishing so much on a physical level and having neglected a lot of the spiritual self and the emotional parts of things, that can like really have you only get so far with certain things, right? And that can have you seeking happiness for longer than you would have to, or seeking comfortability or seeking peace for longer than you would have to if you worked from the inside out first. But certain things concerning the time period, their environment, things that were put into them when they were coming up, those things help, kind of set them back in that way. But them coming together, being so much alike and also so different all at the same time, is what then helps to propel them even further than what they would if they were just, if they were just single, if they didn't have each other at all. Because not even just single, but if they hadn't have met each other at all. And that is also what that orphan card is about. And another side of the spirituality and religion card is them showing each other something different when it comes to spirituality. And I'm picking up on this more so being a functionality of Todd with Kandi. Todd opening Kandi up, or at least trying to. There's certain things he probably hasn't been able to get her to come off of her position with as of yet, but he's been playing a major role in helping her to heal a lot of those spiritual wounds and opening her up to different forms of spirituality, which is inevitably opening her up to her divine realm more, to her divine self more, to her higher self more, because it's something that she effortlessly does, just because of who she is, things she's done in the past life, things her family have done for her in their past lives as well. But once you get mindful about that thing, boy, once you get intuitive about that thing, boy, you become a whole different type of being. You know what I'm saying? It get way different on the divine frequency. You know what I'm saying? So not only do they help each other, against other people, or not only do they help each other see the best of themselves through the other person, but it's even down to a spiritual level. Whereas Kandi grounds Todd, and Todd helps to pull Kandi out of her comfort zone, helps to pull her out of that box, helps her to find fun in more things that she didn't think about before. And we're going to also talk about this Wars and Battles card again. And there's another side to the orphan card. So let's tackle the orphan card first. The orphan card gets into, it's like it's an elaboration on the Five of Pentacles, whereas it's saying both Todd and Kandi have felt like outsiders in their families and have felt like outsiders in their industry in certain ways as well, which has essentially made them feel like orphans on a spiritual level. And in past lives, they also may have been orphans, and they have known each other in a past life before, maybe multiple, but they've known each other in a past life before as well, and they constantly reunite throughout different dimensions and different past lives. This sounds like they are legit twin flames, because your twin flame, you constantly reunite with them no matter what lifespan you're in, no matter what time period you're in, no matter what dimension you're in. You constantly find your way back to them. Not only that, but like even speaking on this particular life period, lifespan, or whatever, you may, let's speak on it from Kandi's perspective in particular. Kandi may have seen Todd before she got on Real Housewives of Atlanta. They may have crossed each other's paths multiple times before they came together on Real Housewives of Atlanta. So even like that, y'all find y'all way to each other, and y'all find y'all way back. No matter how much y'all are separated, no matter what happens, twin flames always find their way back to each other. And that's definitely what this is giving. And that Wars and Battles card also, it has implements of that, like ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, ain't no war chaotic enough, or none of that shit to keep them from each other. And I find that so beautiful and fun. That is so beautiful and fun to me. And so also, speaking of the Wars and Battles card, there are like, Todd lost his mama, light, love, and healing. Hallelujah. And so Kandi's played a major role in like keeping him grounded throughout that process. But also, like I said, with Kandi being in the depths of such a cycle right now, Todd is playing a major role in helping her cope and get through and evolve in the midst of everything that she has going on, as well as helping her address certain things, as well as helping her to speak up for herself. And we may also, sooner than later, start to see and hear Todd get more vocal and get more passionate in the way that he stands up for Kandi and the way that he speaks up for Kandi, because it's him acting, it's her spirit guides acting vicariously through Todd. And not only that, it is Todd fulfilling his divine purpose and his soul contract with her. That's what he's supposed to do with her, but he's been trying to, respect her wishes and respect the pattern that she's had going for so long. But now he's starting to, and he is a Leo child, and when ain't nobody talking, we will indeed speak up. And so he's starting to see it get out of hand and get to a point where Kandi is not able to cope with it as best as she was able to cope with it in the past. And he's going to start to get much more vocal and much more passionate and firm in the way that he has her back. And that is also going to like wake Kandi up in a way, and also make her realize that she really has something solid. She really has somebody solid and loyal in her corner to not only fight for her, but fight with her, and also push her to fight for herself. And that's going to play a major role in Kandi starting to really evolve in herself and get through the depths of this cycle, and really get to that masterpiece form of herself. And lastly, we're going to get the last little drops of stuff out of this orphan card up here. Two things. Somebody's getting kicked out and somebody's getting moved in. And this can literally mean somebody is getting kicked out of their house, or somebody is getting kicked out of their lives. And that is a toxin being cleared out so that somebody who truly deserves what they have to offer can come in. And the entire cycle that I've been speaking about is gearing up specifically towards this. It's multiple things that play into it, past, present, and future type shit. But for this orphan card in particular, the depths of the cycle and everything that I've been speaking on concerning it, this is a specificity of it all, because whoever that person is that's getting kicked out is somebody that is really near and dear to Kandi. It's somebody that she has really trusted and been close to and loyal to for a very long time, seems like since childhood. And it's been so difficult for her to shake out of that mindset and habit that she got to keep them around just because they've always been around. And the depths of this cycle, and also having Todd alongside her, is what's going to start bringing it to her attention even more so that this person is no good for her, and that this person does not deserve what she's been giving them all this time, and that, basically they were only for a season, and it's time to let them go so they can help themselves, to what they need to do. Because she's in that way, in the way that she's been enabling them, it has been keeping them from fulfilling their purpose and fulfilling major aspects of their own purpose. So for them to even have a real choice in making that decision for themselves, they're going to be put at a crossroads moment to like really do it for themselves as a result of that. But also it's going to help her then recognize a person that she's been neglecting. She's been putting so much focus and energy on this one person, and when she gets them out of the way, it's going to bring to her attention like, damn, I could have been doing all of that for them. I could have had them over here, pouring into them and helping them with this and that. And instead of dwelling in that guilt, she's going to go ahead and start making up for the lost time and doing what she can for them and helping them. And child, that's going to create a ton of great karma, not only for her, but for the person that she's bringing in, as well as her kids. And like I said, it is no coincidence that her son's name is Ace. And I must do say as well, all of the fire and things that have popped up through here, the stars and all that good stuff, and the fire sign energy that I've been picking up on as well. And Todd is a fire sign. That is no mistake that she also has a kid named Blaze. But y'all, I hope that this was educative, entertaining, and enlightening. Child, it is an understatement to say that I have milked this cow dry. Howsoever, if you got any particular questions, comments, or concerns about what I covered about Kandi, you go ahead and drop it down there in the comments, and I might, if it's good, if it feels right, if it resonates or whatever, feel like it's in divine design, I might do a video on it in the future. But that is all we have for now. The next reading will likely be between Kenya or Drew. Okay? But without further ado, I bid you all light, love, and liberation, honey. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.